Sports Fest Rick Horrow inside the $2.6 trillion business of sports. We're on the record. Quite an interesting interview if you want an entrepreneur in a sport that is one of the most avid of all sports, yet candidly hasn't gotten the media attention it deserves. How about Sean Gleason, Commissioner and CEO of PBR, Professional Bull Riders, the fastest growing sports property, bar none. And if you don't think so, 56 sellouts, 44 revenue records this year alone. The 25 end-of-year followers, Facebook 7 million, TikTok 4, Instagram 3, YouTube 1. All right, so it's an interesting sport for a younger generation. Not so fast. NASCAR model. The first 8 franchises attracted $3 million investors, then 2 at 23, now 2 considering 50. Mark Lazary and other hardened pro investors coming in even more. When you look at the numbers, hockey, volleyball, pickleball, other events, and PBR, TKO, and other large organizations have attracted interest and equity ownership as well. Sean, a graduate of Western Washington University, an incredible entrepreneur. You'll hear about him. You'll hear him. You'll see he arguably understated. Don't be fooled. This is a big sport, and it's only getting bigger. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, welcome, Sean Gleason. Sean Gleason, CEO of PBR, Professional Bull Riders, for those uninformed. How are you?
I'm good, Rick. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And I know you came to this interview with the cowboy hat, which is standard fare, so thank you very much for that. 56 sellouts, 44 revenue records, attendance of more than 1.5 million last year, 59 million identified fans. Usually those numbers are low, so it's much more. And that's just for starters. And it is, I would argue, probably the fastest growing, quote, niche sport, although it's not niche, that not everybody knows about. Give me your best stat as far as growth that you want people to know about. Maybe a combination of all of those, but what is your take?
Well, I've been doing this for 27 years. So when we started out, we had a coffee can that was the savings account, and what we could invest in new ideas and opportunities. Now we're owned by TKO, part of the UFC, WWE, IMG On Location family. And I think that in and of itself is pretty indicative of how far we've been able to bring this business along and push bull riding out to the world.
When, again, from your material, you had some shares in that cookie can and you sold to Spire Capital, and you've had a pretty handsome return. Then what did you see about the lasting entity and the brand value of the sport? Now there are at least 26 of these leagues that are trying to triple, quadruple the value or even more, but you saw it years ago. Why?
We experimented with team bull riding back with an event we started called the World Cup that eventually was renamed the Global Cup, and it pitted country against country in this team format. And just from my perspective, having been around individual bull riding for most of my life and understanding the sport inside and out, the team dynamic was something that really caught my attention. I thought it had a lot of appeal for a casual fan that isn't familiar with bull riding, doesn't have touch points every day. The riders loved it. The stock contractors loved it. The core people in and around the PBR that are very traditional in terms of their appreciation for the sport, they all love the format. And I thought immediately there's something here to catch fire, and something that we can, sorry about that, can take advantage of in the marketplace. And it's turned out pretty well.
So when you were at Western Washington and you started your education, did you ever think that you would be the top bull riding executive in the world?
I didn't think that actually in college. I grew up on the back of a horse, so I'm no stranger to the Western lifestyle. But I spent most of my youth trying to figure out how to get out of that place, and then spent a lot of years in big cities and in the music business and computer games trying to figure out how I got back to it. And when I saw PBR for the first time, I fell in love with it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Perfect storm in essence, because when you look at your profile and you mentioned it, obviously the NASCAR game had some relevance to what you're doing now and some of those other games, but you had this tremendous sense of media and entertainment dynamics before you were able to put it together with PBR, way before that.
Yeah, I tell people all the time when they ask, I've been pimping or selling entertainment products to consumer for my entire career, whether it was music and music artists and concerts or in the computer game space. And, it was interesting. At one point in time at Sierra, we had the best selling computer games going on the market. One was NASCAR Racing,
Yeah.
which was a very, very successful product. The other one was Trophy Bass, a bass
Huh.
fishing game that was
Yeah.
one of the first casual games to hit the market, meaning that it wasn't Dungeons and Dragons and
Right.
Zelda and role playing games. And so we were laughed out of E3 for debuting this game that was about bass fishing. And it ended up becoming a bestseller right next to NASCAR racing. And when I did the research to figure out what shared interests NASCAR consumers and fishermen had, this thing called PBR kept popping up that I had never heard of. It was relatively young sport and brand, and I made the same mistake everybody did. I tried to get the rodeo license to make a full-on rodeo game, did a little more digging and figured out it was this particular brand of bull riding, the PBR, the stars of the sport, the founders of the organization that people were interested in, and joined up in '99 and haven't looked back since.
And you got to get those real fast talking legal end of commercial disclaimer guys to tell the whole story of the bull and the rider in 8 seconds. Oh, you can do more than that. It's not just the eight
Yeah,
seconds.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
talk real fast.
Talk real fast and tell real stories. And at the end of the day, part of the intrigue, and I must admit, I've been to a couple of dabbling, but the event that I was at was eye opening in Fort Worth. So kudos to that. And I know you do it really, really well. But the TV product is incredible too. And it's not just the TV product, but it's a social media product. You know, you look at your numbers that Andrew provided for us, and you realize that the social media reach, the 7 million Facebook followers and the 3 million Instagram and 1.2 million YouTube. And, then you take a look at all of the 25 million viewers from traditional broadcast. It's a hell of a story that not too many other people can match.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a very digestible sport for social media and media in general. It's high energy, high impact. When it comes to social media, you can wrap up a ride or a wreck and the replay and a little bit of commentary and do it in less than 30 seconds and
Hope so.
which
Yeah.
is which is longer than the attention span of most millennials. But our product on television is fantastic. It's well produced, and it's PBR has everything working for it in terms of the product. It's one of the most exciting sports products out there. 8 seconds of mayhem every time the chute gate opens, whether it's success or failure. It's the only sport that I can think of where you can get killed after you score the touchdown. Still got to get out of the arena. There's a lot of drama in it, and really what's held us back, or the only thing that's kind of put a lid on explosive growth, is really not that many mainstream consumers are familiar at all with the Western lifestyle or this
Yeah.
cowboy hat. This cowboy hat runs a lot of people away because we don't look like them. There's not a lot of exposure in the big cities these days until PBR comes to town. And that's what we've been doing, is forging new territory, selling out Madison Square Garden and going to
Yep.
crypto.com and giving people a little weekend taste of the Western lifestyle, and it works.
All you need is two Boston sellouts, three Madison Square Garden sellouts. You got Pittsburgh, Chicago thrown in as well. Was it fortuitous, or was it part of the business plan that Yellowstone would come along and then change a whole bunch of people into this Western culture that was even more ready for PBR than it was before?
Well, I think that I'd like to take a little credit for helping the phenomenon
Good.
grow and not just riding the wave. We've been pushing that rock up the hill for a long time. We've been in Madison Square Garden for 2 decades, long before Yellowstone was was a thing. And we've gone to these major markets and really brought that message about the Western lifestyle. Yellowstone helped us put it on steroids and really, take advantage of now a consumer that was getting stories about cowboys and getting stories about the West and getting stories about the lifestyle that resonated well in well-written scripts about that were entertaining. And so what it did is really break the barrier down. It took the hat off the head, if you will, and made people realize that these characters and the cowboys were relatable and not from some other planet. And it's helped us immensely in getting trial among new consumers.
By the way, when you go visit a corporate CEO, do you test the demographic first and decide whether to wear the hat in a sales pitch or not? What's your story? Is it intuitive?
I wear the hat.
See, there you go. No doubt.
I mean, I'm not going to be a chameleon and try and, be something that we're not. Although over the years, a good friend of mine hired me here. He was the former CEO, and he and I debated that probably 20 years ago, and hat or no hat, hat or no hat. And we've decided that we should always wear the hat. So
it's '01, and 15 years later, when you become CEO, you have overseen every single aspect from branding and corporate event marketing and licensing and digital media and all of that. What are the biggest similarities and biggest differences between you all? And I hate to say mainstream sport because I would argue there's basically no big differences. But let's say for the operation of this question, the big four.
They're really from a business perspective, there's not a lot of differences. We certainly have different athlete issues and the way that we have a relationship with the athletes relative to other sports. But from a business perspective, it's still very much about media rights, sponsorship, ticket sales, and the traditional revenue streams that make sports go around, and creating a fan base that's loyal and committed. And so we don't have a lot of business differences. And yeah, I've been around through it all. In fact, I probably built, well, I don't know, probably it's not probably. I built every department, and I know that they're patterned after the major sports because I use the major sports as a framework to help us create the departments that fuel our engine.
And so as far as compatible demographics, we referred to NASCAR and bass fishing a minute ago. I had the advantage of working with the Franz family in the expansion model where they took, quote, the sleepy Southeast and expanded it nationally. And one of the things that we found is that the economics are the same, whether you're going to Chicago or Kansas City or Fontana for NASCAR and for you guys as well. The whole idea of expanding into certain markets, was it easy or not to make decisions about going to Boston or Pittsburgh or Chicago? I know some of it's one-off and some of it's more, but how quickly were you convinced that this was truly a national sport?
Well, the first foray was into Madison Square Garden. We knew we had to be in the media capital of the world. We had to be in front of key sponsors that are headquartered out of there or would come to an event there. And so, that was the first real strategic move into a major market was Madison Square Garden. And that was no easy task. We were out on the street corner handing out tickets those first year or two because nobody really wanted to come in and they were afraid of the cowboy hat. And several years into that, we turned the corner. And when you show up in New York and walk the streets in early January now with your cowboy hat on, people will stop you and say, "Hey, are the Bulls back in town?" And they know, they've had enough exposure. So it was not an easy task to make that decision because Madison Square Garden in particular in New York are a very expensive market to try and bring bull riding. But we knew we had to be there. And once we cracked that code, now it's easy to say, okay, we're going to Boston, we're going to Pittsburgh, we're going into these new major markets because I'm fairly confident going into those that we're going to sell out. And it's a really comfortable place to be when I know our marketing machine works and that there's enough national awareness and demand. The people will at least come give us trial.
Well, and the other piece of this that nobody anticipated is how you've been able to find a unique awareness niche after COVID. The interesting thing is that you're in a situation where you first to come back, health and safety protocols, a whole bunch of issues that you didn't expect. And 41 days after the mandated shutdown, you're welcoming fans back. That has to be a positive, not for you guys only, but for the entire industry.
Yeah, it was 41 days and we were back for TV only events. The world wasn't quite ready to gather people,
Yeah.
but that was in April of 20 when the world was shut down. And then July 10th is when we actually had fans back inside of an arena in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And we were the first for that too. But it was just cowboy try. I mean, we approached it as a very, very significant challenge. We had safety protocols that were ended up being the industry guidelines for a number of sports. I even had, anytime anybody called me and asked how we got back, I just sent them our protocols that we had spent, hours and hours working on because we wanted everybody back. And I even had one not to be named friendly entertainment company sports and entertainment company that changed the cover page, but the entire protocol said PBR, PBR, PBR in the context of the body of it. They took it and just put a new cover page on it and got approved. So I'm pretty proud of all the work that we did to really think through the challenges of COVID and ultimately use common sense and some cowboy ingenuity to get us back in front of fans.
And you said, look, this is wonderful. I'm starting an entity that nobody ever thought would be successful. It's wildly successful. And let's get into arena management. I know ASM Global helped you, but in 2021, you start the deal at the Stockyards with the Cowtown facility. Amazing. And when you look at the numbers, over 300 events, and last week, and then Dickies this week, and you're also not only hosting, I guess you're an arena football owner tenant, which is great, but also or owner of the facility. But congratulations on your move to Glendale for the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are extremely happy and excited about the relationship with Arizona and the Sports Commission there, Sports Alliance. And we made a conscious decision a while ago that the World Finals needed to look at a new model of moving from year to year. So getting, the model that we'd had was stay in one place and make everybody come to you. And that worked for a long time, and we're really happy with the relationship here in Texas and certainly love Las Vegas. But we're going to start taking the World Finals and moving it around and get closer to fans that can't necessarily make the trek all the way out and spend almost a week, in a hotel room to experience your premium product. We're going to start moving it around and getting it closer to the fans.
So the real value, there are many value propositions, but the real value proposition, you look at all of the 26, let's say, niche startup leagues in North America, most of them still in existence. And we're talking about pickleball and cornhole and sailing and women's hockey and volleyball, et cetera. When you look at your numbers, I'm not sure I'm supposed to reveal the first 8 franchise numbers. You can do it if you want. Then the next 2, and then what you're starting the bidding for the next 2. So there is a very clear method to your absolute madness.
Yeah, I think it's been published enough that, we sold the first 6 teams to friends and family, partners, longtime partners of PBR that were aligned with us in the concept of this league launch for $3 million. Sold the last 2 teams for $22.5 million, and we're hitting the street with 2 more right now with a starting bid price of $50 million. So franchise values have certainly gone up. We've got really good fundamentals in the league and built it around the concept of longevity and really partnering with the teams, the owners that are investing in the league to create something special. And again, bull riding is not the most mainstream sport that's out there. I think that we've still got a lot of work to do to get people to break down those barriers and come give us trial. But the team product is just phenomenal. 5-on-5 bull riding gives me goosebumps. And, I'm 27 years into this and have seen a whole lot of bull rides, but it's that sports competition and, those last minute ride, the last second ride and the walk off ride and the behind the scenes stuff too, the trades and the draft and the things that traditional sports have that we had never had before that get my blood pumping when we talk about teams.
Well, it's a mainstream business model, and Mark Lazary, John Fisher, Thomas Tull, a whole bunch of other guys, Johnny Morris with Bass. These are mainstream.
Durbin.
Yeah, yep. Richard Childress. These are mainstream investors, so they know something that you're glad they know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you had them on right now, they'd be singing the virtues and the praises of PBR teams. They love their teams. They love the sport. And being able to get people like that, not just to come out and experience the sport, but to invest in it and to create it. Austin Dillon, Richard's grandson, who is an active driver in NASCAR, is the GM of the Carolina Cowboys. And he has just so passionate and invested. All of our GMs and all of our owners are. But when you look at a guy that drives a NASCAR for a living, and then turns around and in any time that he has, he spends it strategizing how he's going to win the next PBR team championships. You've got a winner on your hands. It really is that fun and that engaging. And we've seen great growth, but it just still kills me every day that we're not talked about in the same breath as the NBA or the NHL or some of our other, mainstream sports in the U.S.
Yeah, a couple quickies again, because I could do this for an hour, but you don't have time, and I just want to kind of wrap it up. WFC, WWE, UFC, Endeavor, TKO, that whole relationship has been stellar for you. And has it helped define this even more of a mainstream sport? Has it helped you with capital? Has it helped you with identification of markets? Has it helped you with credibility? All of that.
All of the above. The best years of my career have been with Endeavor and then TKO. Having access to the expertise, the resources, the leadership. Mark Shapiro has been, a visionary for the sport of bull riding. And, for a guy that probably didn't know the ass end of a bull from the front end, when we started this whole journey, Mark has become a really passionate advocate for the sport. And when you get people like that in your corner that take the time to understand it and realize how much value is here, for me, it's validation, but it's also, this massive boost of energy and excitement that helps us continue to grow the sport.
Yeah. So I got a couple more and only a couple more. So you've got Manhater, you've got a few of these other special bulls. You got 40 bull riders, and you got mean opponents. Are the bulls unionizing for an appearance fee? How do you keep them in line?
Yeah, you give them hay and oats, and they're pretty happy.
That's all. That's all they. Hey, it takes one that's upset, right? And you better run the other way.
Yeah, you don't want to be in the pen with them, but they're a lot easier to deal with than the bull riders. I mean, they literally will. They're incredible athletes of their own right. There's no negative stimulation in our sport. We get, animal rights wackos once in a while that claim that they're somehow abused, but these animals are some of the most well cared for animals on the planet, but they still work for hay and oats. Their owners don't necessarily work for hay and oats, but the bulls do.
Yeah.
And they're incredible athletes. They're great personalities. I mean, every bull's got a different personality. Some of them do want to kill you. Some of them you can get in the pen and scratch them on the back. But then you get to the bull rider's side, and they're the most humble, gracious, pound for pound, strongest athletes that I've ever met in my life. And that's why I've spent the past 27 years trying to put more money in their pockets.
Well, and you're doing a very good job of it. And I would give advice to anybody who tries to negotiate with the athlete side. Most baseball owners wouldn't want to get into pens with the baseball players either. But that's another entirely different story, as we're beginning to understand now. So So final question, where is Sean Gleason in 10 years?
Hopefully retired, and sitting in a golf course somewhere, sipping a margarita and complaining about the 98 that I shot that day.
Yeah, it sounds like the rest of us too, except you'll have a legacy that is absolutely unmatched. The industry ought to show a debt of gratitude. Your entrepreneurialism is incredible. And thank you very much. I'm honored to have you as one of our debut guests of this series of shows.
Well, I appreciate being on. Thank you. And thanks for coming out to the event.
Oh, man, it was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. We'll do it again. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, speak with you soon. Let's get on the record with an incredible couple of weeks and even more to come. So let's hit it right now with the opening drive. Number one, Seahawks $9.6 billion deal going to be approved. The Koshla family, they've got to divest their piece of the 49ers. They've also got to decide who are the investment members, no more than 25 according to NFL rules. But let's also give some credit to the Paul Allen estate. I work with the NFL as one of my tasks to get the referendum done in Seattle. And it was a Washington State referendum that included other things, and not just NFL football and not just that stadium, but also youth sports all over Washington. And Paul Allen didn't just go along with it, he insisted on it. And obviously, very important, understated process. Let's give Paul Allen the credit he deserves, as ownership will change hands by the end of the month. That's number one. Number two, Arctos signs up to buy 10% of the Falcons in a stake that starts at 7.5%, goes to 10%. The value at $10.6 billion. Arctos can buy up to 10 teams. The Chargers, the Bills, and Browns are the first three. Falcons are next. NFL's institutional capital requirements are big, but also all over sports. Baseball opened the door in 2019. Now, 75 franchises at over $280 million, and those equity capital requirements are there, and private capital and private equity comes to the table. That's number two. Number three, Mark Lohr sells control of the Timberwolves and links $4.5 billion investment to the Stad company and the founder of Dragoneer Investment Group. Flipped it. Last spring, he was embroiled in a controversy with A-Rod over the value and control of the franchise, got control. Now he sells it for more than 3 times the investment. Celtics at 6.1, Lakers at 12.5, subject to some issues that are coming up now. But at the end of the day, flipping franchises seems to be the order of the day for someone who wants to take control of the investment and then reap the profits with a quicker sale. That's number 3. Number 4, NHL targets the 33rd franchise in Texas while already opening conversations about a 34th team. Austin or Houston, according to Bill Daly, is the answer. The Friedkin company, Dan Friedkin's entity, will spend $2 billion for the purchase price. And the real question is, how do you get an arena done? How do you complement the existing arena? Or what do you do in Houston? Or what do you do in Austin? At the end of the day, there's also the discussion about Phoenix or Atlanta, maybe for 34. But like the NBA in Vegas and LA, you put the process together, you identify the cities, you have a bidding process, you solve some of the problems, but you keep the leverage for all of the problems, and then you move forward. A new way to deal with expansion in Major League Professional Sports. That's number 4. And number 5, the U.S. Open, a record compensation 20% increase, $108 million, up from $90 million, and 44% increase over the last 2 years. Men's champ, women's champ, $5.5 million. Players in the first round received $32,000, up 16%. First round singles players, $140,000. Obviously not like winning the championship, but certainly large considering where they've come from. And also a $2 million player support program, which is on the table this year. The old plan for growth and youth sports for tennis, never been bigger, never been better. Getting ready for the U.S. Open. Next up, the opening drive gives way to the 5 to watch. Number 1, FIFA's crisis in governance escalates as a no-confidence vote may be right around the corner. The FIFA statutes allow 1/5 of the 211 member associations, 43, to demand an extraordinary Congress, which has to be held within 3 months. Officers are departing. Wider governance confrontations seem to be expanding. The $20 billion valuation idea that Gianni Infantino put on the table to sell equity met with derision, probably not because of the idea of raising $4.2 billion. That was a big idea. But the fact that he did it with no transparency and did it without a lot of conversation. We'll see where this goes. Number one. Number two, IndyCar's Freedom 250 turns Washington, D.C. into a large-scale free sports and hospitality platform. 147 laps, 1.7-mile circuit, 288,000 ticket requests. Other entities with hospitality packages for as much as $5,000. The Freedom 250 combined free public access, six-figure attendance demand, national television, and premium hospitality, one of the most ambitious races ever. And oh, by the way, it's Washington, so what would you expect? 1,350 pages of permits. And also, congratulations to Cam Kirkwood, the winner. Number two. Number three, NCAA gives Playfly a new mandate to sell local sponsorship inventory around championships and membership events. Designated market areas. They'll have dedicated staff to work along NCAA's personnel on packaging, market strategy, and activism. The agreement creates a second geographically targeted sponsorship layer that can monetize NCAA events more deeply without diluting the exclusivity of the National Partnership Program. And as we know, colleges definitely need money for NIL and otherwise. That's number three. Number four, the Pacers choose the Zone as their exclusive local streaming home for a full season product. 11 nationally televised games, $59.99 through October 15. The Pacers replacing the traditional RSN model with a low-price direct streaming product while preserving free television inventory for local reach. We'll see how that catches on, or frankly, how many teams take advantage of this in all sports. Number four. Finally, number five, $9.25 million verdict against the New York Times creates a very rare media distribution defamation loss. A 9-day trial. The Alabama basketball player Kai Spears filed the $9.25 million deal after learning the Times had issued or written a story about him being in a, quote, getaway car. It was not him. And at the end of the day, it's taken more than 50 years since the New York Times has lost a defamation suit. And the $9.5 million judgment is a significant sports media outcome. Why? Not just a lawsuit by legal geeks, but it shows the significant value of defamation based on an athlete in a high school, college situation where defamation can be quantified in terms of a significant loss. This isn't going to lead to any lawsuits immediately, but it's going to put the sports world on notice. That's your five to watch. That's your opening drive. I'd like to thank Callie Gazara for helping us put the show together. I'd like to thank you all for listening and watching. Big time Labor Day opening football, opening college and pro. We're ready to go. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, sports professor interested in the $2.6 trillion business of sports. Here we go with the end of the month and beginning of next month. Happy holiday. Happy significant times. Sports Professor Rick Horrow. Speak with you soon.